Hey everybody, Shadow SP. Um, Playing some Granblue Fantasy. I'm going to talk about progression, at least a little bit. So, here's the situation I'm in. You can see my AP bar, it's overcapped. Now, you'll note that it's been this way before. Back when I was doing the original story segments, I got a lot of AP stuff stored up in here. Now, clearly, I found a way to release that AP. So what have I been doing? It's worth talking about. So what I've been doing is playing side stories. Now, side stories, going through the story itself doesn't cost AP. But doing the farming stages does cost AP. And those farming stages are worth doing. So I'm going to come over here to this Dark Giant of the Blue Sea story. And you can see in this event shop, there's a decent amount of things that you can get. Important things to note are draw tickets if you're playing with the gacha. I'm not, so I'm not going to care about them at all. You can stock up extra half elixirs here. It's relatively cheap to do so, but the purpose of farming isn't really to get those half elixirs. You can get some skill materials, but it's not that efficient. However, something that we do want to get in pretty high quantities is CP. Now, a normal person playing the game with access to events wouldn't really care too much about getting a lot of CP from side stories, because most events you can get some CP from kind of passively just by playing the event. But this account really needs CP. And it's because I've been farming these side stories that I've been able to keep up with unlocking classes. It's pretty hard to get the amount of CP you need just by leveling, right? Because you only gain 30 CP per rank. So up until this point, we've gained a decent amount, right? 50 ranks times 30. It's what, 1500 CP? But if you look at what a class costs to unlock, right? 1500 CP, and we look at, say, the Valkyrie class. This class costs 500 CP to unlock. That's a lot. That is a full third of what we've had access to. So, being able to unlock classes is important, especially through getting all of the row 3 classes. Right? We want to unlock all of the row 3 classes and master them kind of as soon as possible, so we can make our main character a lot stronger. But that requires a lot of CP. More than we're going to get from doing the story, by kind of a decent amount. So the way to kind of make up that difference is by doing the side stories. Now let's pick, I don't think I've gotten any of the CP out of this one. Oh, I have. Hold on. I'm trying to find one that I haven't hit the shop yet. Yeah, here's one. So every one of these side stories has 40 CP trades available for it, of 10 CP each. So every side story can give you 400 CP total. However, when you see this here, stock left at the current exchange rate is 20. So half of the CP is at a rate that's relatively cheap, right? It's 3 CP, or it's 3 of the more common treasure and 1 of the rarer treasure. Whereas if we were to go over here, which I believe I've farmed this one down to, yeah. So this one's on 19. You can see going forward, the next trade you get 5 of the more common treasure and 2 of the rarer treasure, so it becomes a lot harder to get the CP. And I think, what's this one? It's got set up so I can look at this. The last 10 CP is expensive. It's 8 of the common treasure and 3 of the rarer treasure. That's not really worth it. Neither is the ones past 20. But the first 20 CP trades are pretty worthwhile because the kind of median gains per stage is a little bit over 4 of the common treasure and 2 of the rare treasure. So basically, every time you do a 20 AP stage, you can trade for CP. So let's just do one of these stages real quick so I can kind of demonstrate what I've been doing. So I'm just doing my normal team. I hit this, and I've set it up so that we're on full auto. And I click the button before the stage begins because was what we set up in way back in the settings, that we enabled auto by one tapping the screen. So if I have on full auto, it uses skills in a specific order. Goes through our team, uses yellow skills, then blue skills, then red skills. It never uses green skills. And it never uses purple skills if you have any access. Now, we can make this more efficient. Because we used a bunch of skills that we didn't have. So, let me demonstrate how I can make that more efficient. So I'm gonna click on this. I'm gonna look at my party members, right? I look at myself. I can change a skill if I use skills on full auto or not. And I can change that for every party member, right? I don't want to use this skill on full auto, it doesn't do anything. Right? I don't want to use this skill on full auto, it doesn't do anything. Whereas if we look at Kokoro, all of Kokoro's skills do something, right? Does extra damage, does damage, does damage, right? So now we've got it set up so that we use all of our offensive buffs, all of our debuffs, and just all of our skill damage. So it will be a shorter time frame. Because now you see we didn't have to go through the animations for these 4 skills that weren't doing anything. Just remember, if you want to turn those skills on, if you're expecting those skills to be used for a different full auto, make sure to turn them back on. So yeah, you can see we've cleared this. Both times we got 4 and 2. Sometimes this chest will not be a treasure, will not be a material drop. It'll be a common treasure drop instead. And very rarely you end up with 3 of this treasure and 2 material drops. So yeah, you can see we cleared that a couple times. We were able to trade for 2 of the CP trades before. Now we can trade for 4 of the CP trades. And that brings us up to 240. If we get 6 more CP trades across the side stories, we can unlock another Row 3 class. We currently have enough to unlock a Row 2 class. So that's kind of what I've been doing to both make sure that we're not overcapping on AP, because if we're over our cap, we're not regenerating. And the regenerated AP is just free. And basically to make sure that we're not overcapping on AP from leveling, because if you level up your ranks by a lot, too fast, your AP will hit 999, and then any AP you'd gain from ranking up is lost completely. So, as advice for anyone doing a new account, if you're not actively playing an event, or you're not like actively farming something else, you can kind of come into the side stories and gain some CP that way, because early game accounts really need CP to unlock every single row 1 and row 2 class. Now, as of right now, we've unlocked and mastered every row 1 class. But our row 2 classes, we've only unlocked about half of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then, yeah, exactly half. For some reason, Dragoon costs 300. I don't really know why, but it does. Every other row 2 class costs 200. So, basically, I'm just gonna be doing side stories, unlocking classes when we need to, and when we hit 0 AP, or close to 0 AP, we'll go do something else. Another thing that you can do if you have AP and you need to use some of it, is you can go do one of these treasure quests. Right? We've got the fire trial, the water trial, earth trial, wind, light, dark. Right? These drop basically, you can see the images of them, right? It's got the books, orbs, and dragon scales. Basically, they're important uncapped materials that you won't necessarily get from doing side stories and main story. So that's pretty important to do in the early game. Later game, you don't really need to do these anymore because you have other ways to get these materials. But at the stage that I'm at right now, this is my only outlet. So if you have AP to spare and you don't want to do side stories but you need materials, this is the place to go. I don't know why the image for the fire trial isn't loading. It usually doesn't do that. Another thing you can do is slime search. If you're short on experience, you can do the slime search. It drops a lot of experience for the amount of AP and time investment that you can do in it. That said, the higher levels do have some difficulties attached to them. Basically, you're fighting against slimes that have you're gonna have a hard time dealing damage to them. Gold slimes and silver slimes have pretty high defense, and you also have the chance of running into a slime swarm, which has pretty high health. And if you're trying to set up a team to do slimes with, you tend to favor bringing a support summon and a main summon that increase your gains from the slimes, rather than increase your damage. There are ways to do sliming, right? Generally colloquially called sliming. I will talk about them later when we get access to them. But for now, we don't really care too much about max leveling our characters. We'll just kind of keep doing that passively. Another thing you can do is Angel Halo. Angel Halo drops experience items. Basically, if you look at our inventory, we probably have some of these somewhere. Yeah, these upgraders. These are angel weapons. There's an SR version also that gives more experience. There's also the same thing for summons, but it looks like we don't have any at the moment. That quest, the Angel Halo, can drop these things. And it's pretty useful in the early game if you need to level some weapons. That said, most of our weapons are max level, and we do care about leveling summons, but it's not that efficient to just run Angel Halo for summons. Also, Angel Halo does drop some orbs. I wouldn't really recommend doing Angel Halo right now, but if you feel like you can. Let's see. Campaign exclusive quest is a time-limited quest, so I'm not doing it. But if you're taking advantage of time-limited things like events, campaign exclusive quest is a good thing to do. It gives you light elemental drops and is somewhat efficient for gaining experience. It's a little bit less efficient than Slime Search, but importantly, campaign exclusive quests can drop half potions, so you can gain AP by doing it. The first 15, I believe, cost nothing, or is it 30? It's one of those. They cost nothing, and then after you've cleared that, it starts costing some, but eventually it reaches a point where the campaign exclusive quest is AP neutral rather than AP positive, but for the first 30 runs, it's AP positive, which is pretty nice. Then, last thing in this treasure quests tab that's important is this showdowns and clashes. We're not really strong enough to do these yet, but if we look at these, right, we can get, with the drop items, we can get SR weapons, which are kind of important, angel weapons and angel summons, as well as these anima and the shop currency for the whatever showdown that is. And once we get there, we can do these clashes for the Xeno clashes. And these, right, if we look at these drop Xeno weapons, and these are pretty good. So once we get to that point, we'll eventually do these, but we're not there yet. We need to actually build a grid before we can realistically accomplish those. After that, what else can you use AP on? If you really need something from a free quest, you can spend your AP on free quests. I wouldn't generally recommend it unless you're just going to do the free quest once to gain the crystals, in which case it's not a bad idea. If you're just after crystals, free quests do drop crystals. And, when you assemble more crystals, you get more rolls on the gacha, and can eventually save up to spark. I'll talk about sparking later. Not really important for this account, but it's just something to bring up as part of the videos series to kind of talk about how you can approach your new Granblue account. Yeah, there's one more thing, and that is fate episodes. Your character's skill fates. Their skill fate episodes require you do stages that cost 10 AP each. You can see the difference here. Rosetta has 3 nodes in her stages, and Arisa only has 2. It kind of varies. Usually it's between 2 and 4. But ultimately, it's not that expensive, and it's worth doing because it makes these characters a lot stronger. It's a lot better to have access to all of their utility and all of their skills. So, yeah. I think that about covers everything I wanted to cover here. I think my next step right now is to empty out my AP. And when it's empty, I'm probably going to start another video. And we're going to clear the Adversa raid and the Adversa hard raid. Alright. See you then. Signing off.